Hey everybody, PincheAls here, and on today's episode, we're going to teach you guys how to install a Mishimoto oil cooler on your 12-valve VR6. So let's get to work because this is PincheAls Garage. Alright, so first things first, if you haven't seen my unboxing, go check that out first before we go any further so you know your part numbers and what we're doing and what we're using today. Ignore some of the stuff over here. I'll break everything that what you see down in here. So this is a Mishimoto universal oil cooler kit. What you're gonna need to purchase to get this on top of the oil kit. This is a 10-row oil cooler with the sandwich plate. They comes with two different size adapters and two AN fittings for your oil lines. These guys right here. Comes with a set of oil lines already pre-made. And that's it. I mean, there's not much to this. Now, the tricky part is making this work with a VR6 12-valve because it's kind of weird. So what you see here on the right side, now this one you can get at any junkyard. This is pretty much the crankcase housing, oil filter housing adapter for a 1.8T. What you need to do is pick one of these up at the junkyard and pull the oil tube for this oil filter tube. It's another term for it is the oil filter bolt. What you need is two nuts on here, one for kind of like this. You want to thread the what I did is I used the one that was provided in the box, the Mishimoto kit. Put both of them together, counter tighten them, and then I was able to break loose the bolt itself, unthread it. We no longer need this nut that's on here. This is no longer needed, but you need this piece right here. And I'll explain why. Move this over here. You'll see here on your 12-valve VR6, you have the oil cooler cover or cap, and this piece right here, this bolt is not threaded in. This is pressed in. I thought this was threaded in, but I was wrong. I almost damaged this cap, but I didn't. I ended up doing more research and looking inside of this, and this piece is not a threaded bolt. Now, I've heard there's a metal one out there that you can get one of these, and it does have a threaded one in there. If you want to get that, pick that up. If not, we're going to go the other cheaper route. Downside is you have to replace this all the time as well. But again, it's cheap, and you don't have to worry about buying something different. So I ended up going to AutoZone and picking up a small oil filter. S4967 is the part number. So 4967. These are tiny. They're super tiny. And the reason why I got this is because it fits right around. So it makes a good seal. It's short. There's another filter I believe that's out there on the market that's even shorter than this. If you can find that for about $5 to $6, 100% worth it. You just need a little shorty one, and pretty much we'll do the same exact thing. And I'll explain that when we get to that point. All right. So now that we have all of this in place, now you understand what parts you're going to need. Now we're going to explain to you why we need these. So what we need here, this is where the oil cooler goes. This is where pretty much oil is fed in and fed back out. This is your oil filter housing here. This is where the oil filter goes. That's cartridge based on a 12-valve VR6. We're ignoring this. We're working on this piece right here. Now, if you were using the factory stuff, and I'll explain again why we had to do it this way. From the factory, this is your oil cooler. You'll see the O-ring here sits on the outside. On the inside, and then you have your little oil cooler cap with bolt, and then this feeds right in. This has an O-ring on it too. It's pretty much exact length. You see this amount of length here is right there, and it threads in. All right, pretty straightforward. Run the wire, run your lines and everything, you're done. But the Mishimoto sandwich plate is too thick. This is where the problem kicks in. It's too thick, so when you want to reuse this one, it's just not possible. It just doesn't work, and you can't really mount it. It just doesn't work. I tried putting it in the back of it, and the problem is when you put the Mishimoto on the back, it's still too thick. It just doesn't reach. So what I ended up figuring out, all right, dirt cheap, is that we use this guy. So this is from a 1.8T, like I explained earlier. Put the oil cooler on. Okay. You're gonna put your sandwich plate on. The sandwich plate has an O-ring as well, which faces forward. We're gonna feed the lines upside down. Okay. Just like that. This has an adapter, and the oil filter fits beautifully on that. Grab that and thread that sucker in. And there you go. Now your sandwich plate is complete. Now, obviously, what you want to do is when you're done with this, so only you have to take off the oil filter is put this guy on, then this guy. This is the adapter for the sandwich plate. You want to thread this on first before you put the oil filter with it. Torque it to spec. Okay. Make sure all your lines and everything are pointing down. I prefer them having them point down versus going up. There's less interference down here. Get this tightened down nice and snug. That way, since it is a sandwich, it's an O-ring sandwich. There's so many O-rings in this thing. We need to add a little bit more torque to tighten these down a little bit more. Once these are nice and tight, then you can install your oil filter like normal. Okay. Again, hand tighten these. Never tighten these too much. Anyways, in general. And that way, when you're done, this comes off and this doesn't come off with it. I would probably suggest using some Loctite on the ends of both of them. That way they don't have an accidental back out. Again, this is just preventative, so you guys don't have an accident with you're pulling the bolt out and then you just have oil going everywhere. You just have this one oil filter that you have to replace. And it just makes it easy. Now, my only concern, because I don't have an answer yet to this, and this DIY is not a guaranteed 100% until it's actually in the car. But for now, this filter is the exact height of the intake manifold. It's the same distance. So I'm hoping that the radiator fans are never going to touch this. And the reason why I think they're not going to be bothered is because the intake manifold sits a lot shorter than the stock one. So this is matching the same width of the intake manifold that's on here. So to me personally, it should be fine. The filter should not hit the fan and should clear just fine. If it does hit the fan, there is another filter at AutoZone that I found that's shorter, even shorter than this, by another like 1/2 inch to 1 inch. So that should solve the problem. If you guys have a solution to this, please comment down below. All right, and tell me if you guys found a better option than using a filter. I know online there is a block off plate you can find, but it's a like $60-70 solution. It's not that great of a value where I can just replace a filter for $5-6, or even get them for free, honestly. Again, it's one of those things, is like, I don't know, this is pretty cheap, and it's double filtration. Honestly, you can't go wrong with even more filtering in a car. So I don't know if this is actually going to be extra beneficial or not. If it is, I mean, we got 2 filters doing double the amount of job. We also have to add another quart to almost 2 quarts of oil to our actual build here because we're using an external oil cooler. Okay, so our next step here is adding our oil, our feed and return line. And then you can see here, they're pretty straightforward. They give you a nice 90-degree angle. What I love about these is just because the way these are made, they're beautifully made. They're really, really nice AN fittings. And then pretty much that's how you're going to route them. Now it's really going to be up to you on how these lines will be routed to the front of your car. Pretty much we're at the point where this will be, this portion of the DIY where the oil cooler is going to go is really up to you guys. In my build, since we're going to be doing this is a turboed VR6, we also have to add a water to air intercooler. So the intercooler on this car is not going to be a front mount, it's going to be a water to air. So it's going to be a very unique situation in how the front of the engine is going to look, or the radiator setup, because I have a heat exchanger on top of a oil cooler and a radiator. So we need to make sure that they're stacked correctly and they all benefit from obviously the air coming in from the front of the car, and we benefit from all that movement, plus the fact that we're running water to air intercooler, so we want to keep temperatures really low. So adding a oil cooler is exceptional when you run a VR6 that's turboed. External oil cooler, number one, will keep your temperatures under control. Since VR6s are naturally really hot engines, so you want that, number one. Number two, I mean, it just looks dope. This is not gonna get this wrong. It looks dope, and it's gonna extend the life of your car. Number three, there's a second freaking oil filter. We now have double filtration. We have extra cleaning properties, so this engine's going to be very healthy in its life as it pretty much as we move forward with it. And that's it. Honestly, that's really it. Those are the biggest benefits that we have with this build, with this setup of oil cooler. We will move forward on this setup to finish the DIY when the engine's in the car, so we guys can show you how the rest of it goes in. So keep track on this on this season of PincheAls Garage with the VRT, built by Patreon and Patreon subscribers. Again, smash that subscribe button and like. As always here at PincheAls Garage, thank you for watching. And you know what? We're gonna break, we're gonna fix, and we're gonna repeat. Peace out, everyone, and I hope you guys enjoyed this DIY. We'll see you guys next time.